I'll shave that. I promise. Okay. Good morning, Betty's iPhone. Good morning, Dr. Jason Prabhu. Good morning, HP. Good morning, Adipusha Prabhu. Jamina Jaya. Good morning. Lileshwari. Good morning. Maharani Didi. Good morning. Susan Weiser Mason. Good morning. Akiko G. Good morning. Acyuta Gopi. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Acyuta Gopi is with us today. Happy Ekadasi. Acyuta Gopi, floor is yours.
Yes, as always, wishing everyone a very happy and joyous Ekadashi. So excited to be with everyone again. Feels like a long time, but not really so long. But today, I get to speak about one of my all-time favorite Vaishnava Acharyas. But in order to find out exactly who that Acharya is, we have to begin with our Mangalacharna. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha, kripa sindubhya eva cha, patitanam pavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. So with all of your blessings and encouragement and good wishes, we can finally end the suspense. Today's theme is revealing the mind of the Lord. And the person who I really feel they exemplify this quality of revealing the mind of the Lord himself, herself, themselves together is none other than Srila Visvanatha Chakravarti Thakur. He is one of my all-time favorites, and for so many reasons, but his commentaries on Srimad Bhagavatam and his commentaries on Srimad Bhagavad Gita are just two of the reasons why he is a favorite of mine. It is said that Krishna himself appeared to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and ordered him in a vision to comment and write extensive commentaries on the works of the six Goswamis. And after that order by the Supreme Lord, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur began writing prolifically. And, I like to think, who wouldn't? Who wouldn't, after being personally ordered and invited, encouraged by the Supreme Personality of Godhead? So, our Vaishnav historians give us quite a bit of information on Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. And I'm going to try and streamline it because there's so much to know about a Vaishnav like this, about such an illustrious Vaishnav. But also, there's a few more things that I'd like to honor and glorify him with. So we'll see how quickly we can streamline his biographical information. So he is called affectionately by the Vaishnavas the crest jewel of the Vaishnavas, Vaishnav Shiromani. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur uh, aptly called him the protector, guardian, and acharya during the middle period of the historic development of Gaudiya Vaishnavism. And with a long, wonderful introduction like that, we know that it was said by Singha Guru Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. I always think that our lion guru, he was able to say so much succinctly, eloquently, but he was able to pack in so much in even just one sentence. So much so that I often wound up wondering how, because these are English words that he's using, and especially in the purports of Sri Brahma Samhita, if we have all at all tried to read those purports, right? One purport can take a week to get through and study just the terminology and the language. And I'm always thinking, this is English. I know English. I studied English in college. I was speaking English my entire life. And still, I cannot fathom the English that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur is able to use. This is a command of the language that is foreign to me. It's like you have to know linguistics and English at the same time. But through the mercy of the Vaishnavas, somehow or other, the essence continues to be revealed. So, in that vein, he has called Srila Visvanatha Chakravarti Thakur the protector, guardian, and acharya during the middle period of the historic development of Gaudiya Vaishnavism. Eternally, he is a maidservant of Srimati Radharani's. He's a young girl, a Manjari, named Vinod Manjari. And because of his pure devotion, his scholarship, and his understanding of the loving relationships of Shri Radha Krishna, he is a favorite not only of mine, but of all of the Vaishnavas. He wrote over 40 Sanskrit books, which is not easy in a time when you had to write them on palm leaves. It's not easy to write over 40 books now when we have computers and typesetting and all kinds of things to make it easier. But he made that his life's mission. He made it his life's work completely. He was born in the year 1638 in the district of Radhadesh, in the village of Nadia, and a sub-village called Devgram. His father was Narayan Chakravarti, and that Narayan Chakravarti had 3 sons, Ramabhadra, Raghunath, and Visvanatha. Srila Visvanatha Chakravarti Thakur was the youngest. And as a child, he wasn't even interested in playing with his friends. In fact, he didn't even care to have any friends. He would simply spend his time hearing Bhagavatam from his elder brothers. And they would discuss all of the stories of Bhagavatam amongst each other. And as a young child, he had a strong sense of sadhana. At 4, it is recorded that he was chanting the holy names thousands of times daily. And people were rightfully so astonished at how much love he had for the holy name. Can we think about it? You know, if you've ever used a clicker, you realize that our 16 rounds is only really like 1,728 times that we've chanted the holy names of Krishna. Thousands. So not just, not just one 16 rounds, but thousands of times. And that's at 4. At 7, there was a showdown, a great debate between Srila Visvanatha Chakravarti Thakur and a Digvijay Pandit. Digvijay means that you've conquered all directions. Pandit is used for scholarly learning. So it's one who has conquered all the directions with their scholarly learning. And these Digvijay Pandits would spend their lives learning logic, grammar, philosophy, and then they would go from place to place having these great debates. And these Digvijay Pandits would carry around usually a sheet, a long parchment with the names of the people that they had defeated. So this Digvijay Pandit arrives in the district where Srila Viswanath Chakravarti Thakur is, and he's challenged to a debate by a 7-year-old. And he's thinking, how difficult can it be to defeat a 7-year-old? And his philosophy is very quickly crushed. Everything that he's studied, he loses the debate. So it's like if you were to get your doctorate and you have a thesis to defend. You think, okay, I'm going to defend my thesis. It's a popular thing. Defend your theory. And you've spent your life developing this theory and this thesis. And a 7-year-old comes and upends your entire life's work. This Digvijay Pandit was not only crushed in the debate, but he felt like his soul was also crushed. So much so that he was praying to the goddess Saraswati, trying to figure out how in the world a 7-year-old could have defeated him who had already defeated so many scholars. As he was lamenting and praying, the elder brother of Srila Viswanath Chakravarti Thakur, Ramabhadra, he comes on the scene. He arrives and he tells the Digvijay Pandit, he says, you don't feel too bad. It was kind of destined. You see, please don't be offended, but my younger brother is an eternal direct associate of Sri Krishna. There's absolutely no one who would ever be able to defeat him. So don't feel so bad that you lost. It's fine. And that was the way that the pastime ended. He won. And at 7, imagine having a grasp of Shastra, of logic, of grammar, philosophy at 7. He was known as a Shrutidar, which meant that he could grasp, retain, and repeat anything that he heard, even just once. Also, like our Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, the guru of our beloved Srila Prabhupada, he was also able to retain and repeat and grasp the concepts of something that he heard even just one time. As a person who really enjoys pastimes, it's a mystical potency that I wish I had. Wouldn't it be wonderful? You hear one pastime and you're able to not just repeat it, but you're able to grasp and retain the essence, which means how involved must you be in that pastime, right? I can only imagine that this pastime is not just being spoken to you, not just being heard, but you're living it, imbibing it, completely diving into it, even just one time. So this is our Srila Viswanath Chakravarti Thakur. Where would we be without his extensive commentaries? Srila Prabhupada refers to his commentaries so much within Srimad Bhagavatam. And it is because of Srila Viswanath Chakravarti Thakur that we have so much of 11th and 12th cantos. So he studied Bhagavatam from his very birth. And he continued his study even after the age of 7, after defeating a fully grown Pandit. He continues his study under the guidance of his 2 older brothers, specifically Ramabhadra. And so finally, at the end of his studies, Ramabhadra asks him, says, so Vishwanath, what is the essence of everything you've learned from Srimad Bhagavatam? And there was some hesitation. Srila Viswanath Chakravarti Thakur was unsure of what to say. And in that moment of unsurety, Ramabhadra Chakravarti says, well, if you're unsure, you haven't gotten the essence. So go back, read it all again. Entire Bhagavatam, all 12 cantos. We think of it now, and even going through all 12 cantos once is it's a great feat. We almost feel like a Digvijay Pandit once you read it all the way through. Like you almost want to you want to chart your progress and write your name down on a sheet. I've done it. Now he tells them, go read it all again and then let me know. With no argument at all, Srila Viswanath Chakravarti Thakur goes back to the drawing board, reads it all again. Comes back a year later. And before he can even get the question out, it's like Srila Viswanath Chakravarti Thakur is bubbling over with excitement. The essence of all of the Bhagavatam is that one should find an eternal place in Vrindavan Dham. One should serve the lotus feet of Radha Krishna. One should find any way they can to dive into the pastimes of Shri Radha Krishna. One should make their home in Sri Vrindavan Dham. And so, my dear brother, it's my desire that I leave home right now and head to Vrindavan and make my home there. Ramabhadra was proud of his younger brother. Now you've gotten the essence. But he doesn't leave quite yet. Turns out that Srila Viswanath Chakravarti Thakur was married as a child, which was not uncommon at the time. And he never really had any dealings with his wife. He meets a very wonderful Vaishnava by the name of Radharaman Chakravarti. So Srila Viswanath Chakravarti Thakur takes initiation from Radharaman Chakravarti, and this is in the line of Srila Narottam Das Thakur, our Thakur Mahashai, which we've spoken about. So many acharyas that we've spoken about wind up making appearances throughout the life of Srila Viswanath Chakravarti Thakur. I feel like we have like a family now, and they make like guest cameo appearances in other episodes. So in the line of Narottam Das Thakur is this Radharaman Chakravarti. And so Srila Viswanath Chakravarti Thakur wants to take sannyas, renounce everything. Radharaman Chakravarti tells him, first spend one night with your wife. You're so eager, but also young, thriving, full of life. Spend one night with your wife and then come tell me what you think about this renunciation business. So Srila Viswanath Chakravarti Thakur goes and follows the order of his spiritual master. He goes home, he sees his wife, and the wife is quite excited because he's never usually home. He's always somewhere in wonderful trance. And Srila Viswanath Chakravarti Thakur begins to do what he does normally. He begins to read Srimad Bhagavatam. And in reading Srimad Bhagavatam and in telling the stories of Srimad Bhagavatam, everything else fades away. He really becomes immersed in the stories of Bhagavatam, so much so that even his wife becomes immersed in the stories. And as he's reading and reading and reading, they're not even aware of how much time is passing. Finally, somewhere halfway through the night, Srila Viswanath Chakravarti Thakur decides, you know what else we should do? We should chant the holy names. Let's chant japa. His wife readily agrees. They begin chanting japa and they chant all the way until sunrise. Then Srila Viswanath Chakravarti Thakur returns to his spiritual master. He says, Gurudev, I've done what you've said. Radharaman Chakravarti says, well, what happened? He says, well, Guru Maharaj, I went home. I did what I normally do. We read Srimad Bhagavatam, and then we chanted the holy names, and I felt Krishna's divine presence. Radharaman Chakravarti concedes. You're ready. And he gives him sannyas. He lets him renounce everything. Some of our Vaishnava historians say that he wanted to put a test to him, just to see how renounced he would be. And as I was preparing for this lecture, I was talking to my sister, and we had an interesting conversation about it. And we both kind of agreed, like we're on the same mindset. Not only do I feel like it was maybe even a test, but I feel like maybe it was even, you're so young, go and experience all of the things that you've never had before you renounce them all. But Srila Viswanath Chakravarti Thakur was through and through who he was. In the daytime as well as nighttime, inside and out, he was the same person. So I often feel as though renunciation is a mindset first. Right? There's an internal shift that must occur in order to keep oneself firmly on the path. But Srila Visvanatha Chakravarti Thakur was already there, just uninterested in anything other than diving deep into the pastimes of the divine couple. So this is what he does before he goes and he takes sannyas. When he takes sannyas, our Vaishnava historians say that he is given the name Hari Vallabh. He doesn't use it very often, except sometimes he uses it as a pen name, which I also thought was very interesting. Usually you don't have many of our Vaishnavacharyas who use a pen name. Srila Visvanatha Chakravarti Thakur does, which I thought was pretty awesome. So he uses this Hari Vallabh name as a pen name sometimes. And as time goes by, one of the first instructions that he gets, because he is able to go to Vrindavan, is his Guru Maharaj tells him, I want you to write down the Srimad Bhagavatam, make a copy of Srimad Bhagavatam. And so he works from his Guru Maharaj's own manuscript of Srimad Bhagavatam, copying onto palm leaves. Not easy. And it was said that he would get so immersed in writing that miraculous things would occur. When it was scorching hot, because he would write outside, sometimes under a tree, in the elements. When it was scorching hot, clouds would come overhead, just where he was, to offer him shade. And when it was cold, the sun would emerge right overhead, just to make sure that he was just warm enough. And it was said that when it would rain, even monsoon rains, not a drop of water would disturb him or his manuscripts. This was the power of just how dear Srila Visvanatha Chakravarti Thakur was to Sri Krishna, protected, and his works protected by Sri Krishna himself. So he begins writing, and he makes commentaries on Srimad Bhagavatam and many, many other works. So as we said at the beginning, he was ordered by Sri Krishna to make commentaries on the works of all the 6 Goswamis. There are some that said he was especially blessed to comment on the works of Srila Rupa Goswami. And for me, his commentaries on Srimad Bhagavatam opened my eyes so much. So much of my own writing has so many details because of the commentaries of Srila Visvanatha Chakravarti Thakur. And I'm a person who loves details. Feels like everyone comes alive in Srimad Bhagavatam. The more details we get, the better for me. So gaining that treasure of the Sarartha Darshanitika, or the commentary of Srila Visvanatha Chakravarti Thakur, is invaluable. It adds such a new dimension to reading Srimad Bhagavatam. And it works because then you can read them side by side. Srila Prabhupada's commentary, Srila Visvanatha Chakravarti Thakur's commentary. You can take it story by story. You can take it section by section. And sometimes there's a commentary by Srila Prabhupada, and then somehow the commentary by Srila Visvanatha Chakravarti Thakur feels even clearer. It seems like they complement one another. So wonderfully enough, you can find these commentaries even on Amazon. You can get them on a Kindle. You don't even have to wonder if somebody's like going to India and shopping at Ras Bihari Lal for you and then bringing all the books back in a container that just has books in a suitcase that you now have to pay for. But no, you can go on Amazon and you can get the hard copy, or you can get the Kindle version, which is awesome because I'm a little person and I can't carry around everything all the time as much as I would want to. But this is the treasure of our Vaishnavacharyas. It's treasure troves. And no matter how many times you read them, you find favorite sections, you find sections that you thought were never there before. And of course, we'll have to dive into a few of those sections because how could we not? But first, also, as for being the protector, right? protector, guardian, Acharya. So we hear how he could be the Acharya, but protector and guardian, like what happens? So we had our lecture on Baladev Vidyabhushan, and he has to go and save the deities of Shri Radha Govinda. From who? Other Vaishnavas. So the other Vaishnavas looked, and they were Ramanandis in the line of Ramanujacharya. And they decided that the worship of Lakshmi Narayan was more supreme, most supreme. And they had so many different rationalizations, but at the end of the day, what they did was they removed the deity of Radharani from the altar of Govindaji. Someone has to save Radha Govinda. So the king, who was very favorable toward the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, sends out an alert, help. Someone send the foremost scholar. Send some backup. We need to find a way to theologically, philosophically, get Radharani back on the altar and somehow reunite the divine couple. Srila Visvanatha Chakravarti Thakur was at the time the foremost scholar, but he was old. He says, I can't go. In fact, I promised that I wouldn't leave Vrindavan. So I can't leave now. But what I will do is I'll send my disciple. And he sends Sri Baladev Vidyabhushan. Long story short, Srila Baladev Vidyabhushan argues and debates with all of the other Vaishnavas. They say, you Gaudiya Vaishnavas don't even have a commentary on Vedanta Sutra. He says, fine, I'll write one. Give me some time. Some historians say, we'll give you 3 weeks. Some historians say, we'll give you 3 months. But it was a very short amount of time to have written an entire dissertation on Vedanta Sutra. Baladev Vidyabhushan realizes that this time is impossible. So what do our Vaishnavacharyas do when they face the impossible? They run to Govindaji. Baladev Vidyabhushan runs to Govindaji and says, Govindaji, I can only complete this if I'm given your mercy, if I'm given direct guidance by you. Otherwise, I don't know how this will happen. Govindaji says, don't worry. I'll personally dictate to you everything that you need to write. It will be the best commentary that anyone has ever written. And no one will be able to defeat it because I will have made it for you. And I'm undefeatable. So they sit for all of that time. Srila Baladev Vidyabhushan takes dictation from Srila Govindaji himself. And at the end, he presents this commentary. And all of the other Vaishnavas, these Ramanandis, who were so proud previously, now they've like fallen in love with his commentary, so much so that they want to switch sampradayas. And can you initiate us? Can we also be Gaudiya Vaishnavas? And he says, no, it wouldn't be correct. You're already in this path, but it's okay. You can always take this philosophy to heart. And when it comes time for him to name this commentary, normally it would have been named a Baladev Bhashya. He instead names it a Govinda Bhashya because it's been made by Govinda himself. Baladev Vidyabhushan gets deities who he names Radha Vijay Govinda, because this Govinda was the source of all of his victory in his entire devotional life. This is the disciple of Srila Visvanatha Chakravarti Thakur. This is why he is proclaimed as the protector and the guardian of Gaudiya Vaishnavism. Also, when he arrived in Vrindavan, he saw that there were so many deviations from the works of the acharyas. Some of them were saying that Krishna's wedded love was so much more superior than his love with the gopis, and they said so many other derogatory things. And these were followers of Jiva Goswami, who had somehow gone astray. Srila Visvanatha Chakravarti Thakur defeats all of those scholars, and he proclaims the greatness of Krishna's love for the gopis and vice versa. Those scholars, having been defeated, get so angry that they make a plan to kill Srila Visvanatha Chakravarti Thakur. They begin chasing him. They knew the route that he would take every day because he would go on parikrama. They knew the route that he would take. They knew when he was going to arrive. They were waiting for him, and he doesn't show up. They don't see anyone, in fact, except for a young girl. And she's picking flowers. And they say, "Hey, Lali, have you seen a Babaji pass this way? He normally comes every day." She says, "I think so, but I think he went that way." And they said, "Well, who are you?" She says, "Oh, well, I'm just a servant of Radharani. I'm picking flowers because she wants to make a garland for our Govindaji." She says, "But I have to go now." And when she leaves, she disappears. And in her place is Srila Visvanatha Chakravarti Thakur. All of these wayward Vaishnavas then realize that they cannot harm him at all. And they leave him alone. But apparently, according to our Vaishnava historians, this is not the only attempt made on his life. But he continues to remain strong in his preaching. So as protector and guardian, he comes to Vrindavan and he reestablishes the glory of Krishna Prema, of Krishna's unique pastimes, and all of the glory of the six Goswamis that they'd worked so hard for that somehow had gotten lost. So this is our Srila Visvanatha Chakravarti Thakur, and we owe him so much. We're going to see just how much we owe him in a minute, but so much. And I want to jump into some of the sections of Srimad Bhagavatam that I wind up loving for his commentary. So first, we'll begin with the story of Lord Nrsingadev. And with the commentary, so we start in the 7th canto, chapter 8, text 28. And so I'll just read the translations and some of the commentaries because it gets very interesting. And some of his commentaries are very straightforward and to the point. Some of them are almost a repetition of what was in the Sanskrit. But some of them offer a glimpse into the mind of the Lord, which is why I've named this Revealing the Mind of the Lord, because he had such an incredible knack, such an incredible quality of bringing out the innermost thoughts of the Lord and these inner details. And sometimes I'm wondering, where did you get these from? But if you've been reading Srimad Bhagavatam from before the age of 4, I suppose at that point, it comes with the territory. All the blessings are there all automatically. So we begin with text 28. Laughing loudly with a terrifying sound, the agile Lord captured the demon Hiranyakashipu, who moved up and down with the speed of a hawk and left no spot vulnerable by using his shield and sword, but who had closed his eyes out of fear of the laughter. Just as a snake captures a mouse, the Lord caught the demon, who flailed his limbs about when captured, and placed him on his lap at the threshold of the palace. With his nails, he then casually pierced the demon, whose skin could not be pierced with an axe, just as Garuda pierces a poisonous snake. Commentary. He captured the demon just as a snake captures a mouse. Without paying attention, he pierced his body, though his skin could not be injured by an axe, just as Garuda pierces a snake. He pierced him at the door, which was not in the assembly hall, nor outside. He placed him on his lap, a place which was neither on the ground nor in the sky. He pierced him by his nails, which were neither living nor dead. Also he killed him during the twilight, which was neither day nor night. Translation. With fierce eyes difficult to look upon because of their anger, the Lord licked the edges of his gaping mouth with his tongue. His mane and face were red because of stains of drops of blood, and he wore the demon's intestines as a garland. He looked like a lion just after killing an elephant. Leaving aside the demon, whose heart was uprooted by his nails, the Lord, armed with his phalanxes of arms, killed all his followers by the thousands using his nails and weapons. Commentary. Hiranyakashipu's lotus heart was uprooted by the buds of the Lord's nails. Now, we have some really interesting word choice. When have we ever heard Hiranyakashipu's heart referred to as his lotus heart? Like worthy of worship and devotion. But he's a demon. So let's see why. Hiranyakashipu's lotus heart was uprooted by the buds of the Lord's nails. The Lord thought, I was happily living in his heart. But how did this unfortunate person make anger and hatred live there as well? He pulled out his heart as if to inspect it. He used the buds of his nails in order not to damage the lotus of Hiranyakashipu's heart. The Lord then had groups of arms and also followers. That part bears reading one more time. The Lord thought, I was living happily in his heart. But how did this unfortunate person make anger and hatred live there as well? He pulled out the demon's heart as if to inspect it. He used the buds of his nails in order not to damage the lotus of his heart. How incredible. How incredible. The Lord himself is now looking because he says, I reside within every heart. We often think, yeah, we hear these things, Krishna says, 15:15 Bhagavad Gita, seated within everyone's heart, right? And we think, of course, and the first thing we think of is demons, devotees, cows, any other oppressed being, like all of those things. We don't normally think the demons first. And as Hiranyakashipu, I was never thinking of the Lord residing in his heart. But in fact, the Lord had been residing there for a very long time. I mean, always. So now, Lord Nrsingadev inspects his heart. This was my home. My place, my resting place is always pristine, filled with goodness, devotion, love in the extreme. How did this unfortunate person allow anger and hatred to take over? He destroys Hiranyakashipu the demon, but keeps the heart intact. The Lord's resting place is always his resting place. So sometimes we might think, when we hear the Lord resides in the heart, like, is it literal or just like figurative? Can we take these things literally? Is he literally residing in the heart? Yes. Even the heart of a demon. Even the heart of a person who wanted nothing else but to kill his dearest devotee. How incredible. It makes me think twice whenever I look at politicians or whatever that I think I have some intense dislike for. And then I remember the Lord is in there. Like, you have a Paramatma. My goodness. Sometimes he's like really difficult to find. Like, he's like buried really deep, but he's still in there. Never leaving, never abandoning this jiva. What to speak of how he will never abandon us, who have even maybe just one time, with appreciation and love and affection, have chanted Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. That's all it takes. One moment, one time. If he never left Hiranyakashipu, and usually if we wake up, our to-do list is not as heinous as Hiranyakashipu's to-do list, right? So even if we think, like, my bhakti, my sadhana is not what it should be, but at least it's not Hiranyakashipu level. there is a plus. Okay, that should let us know that there is always hope. If the Lord didn't abandon that guy, he's not abandoning you. This doesn't usually mean that, we just to hell with all the rules and we do whatever we want. But we can have hope that even as we try and maybe probably fail and then try again, the Lord is just eager to see us try and so happy to see us try. Because how many times, how many lifetimes have we allowed anger and hatred to take over his resting place? Now we're trying something different. Our Lord is so happy and proud and enlivened that we just choose something different. This is the glory of a commentary like Srila Visvanatha Chakravarti Thakur's. Without that commentary, it would have gone right over my head. Yeah, the Lord's seated within everyone, no problem. But really, it drove it home in such a sweet way that I read that had to have been 3, 4, 5 years ago. And it became quickly my favorite part of the story of Lord Nrsingadev. This inspection of the heart of Hiranyakashipu as the eternal resting place of Lord Nrsingadev himself. Like, how's that for an inception moment? Going further into the mind of the Lord, revealing the mind of the Lord for all of us, where would we be without it? We have the story of Sudama, also incredibly sweet. So now from our 10th canto, amazingly, Srila Prabhupada was able to work through all up until this 10th canto, and up until the story of like Agasura and the Brahma Vimohan Lila. But after that, what do we have? How do we have commentaries? We have Srila Visvanatha Chakravarti Thakur to the rescue. So in the story of Sudama Brahman, we have the Supreme Lord said, "O Brahman, what gift have you brought me from home? I regard as great even the smallest gift offered by my devotees in pure love. But even great offerings presented by non-devotees do not please me." Commentary. Krishna asked, "Have you brought anything for me? I surmise that you, having such affection for me, would not come empty-handed, so far from your house to see me, who have such affection for you." Sudama replied, "I am very embarrassed to show it, because it is very meager." Krishna responded, "Even if my devotee offers only a little with pure love, it becomes plenty for me." Next text. "If one offers me with love and devotion a leaf, a flower, a fruit or water, I will accept it." Commentary. Sudama said, "When I took this from my house to present to you, I did not think about it at all. But now I think that it is unsuitable for you to eat, so I'm not giving it." The present verse, which Sri Krishna spoke in Bhagavad Gita, is Krishna's reply to Sudama's anxiety that his bringing such an unfit offering was ill-considered. The phrases is bhaktya prayachati and bhaktya uparhita may seem redundant, since they both mean offered with devotion. The word bhaktya can indicate how Krishna reciprocates the devotional mood of whoever offers him something with love. In other words, Krishna emphasizes here that his reciprocation in pure love is not dependent on the external quality of what is offered. Krishna said, "Something may or may not be tasty and pleasing in its own right. However, if my devotee offers it to me in love with the expectation that I will enjoy it, I eat it with great pleasure without thinking twice about it." The verb ashnami, I eat, implies that Krishna can even eat a flower, which though acceptable as non-edible, but bewildered as he is by the ecstatic love he feels for his devotee, he'll eat it. Interesting side note about this. In the temple, when the Lord eats, there are certain steps that a pujari will take in order to feed the Lord properly. At the end of those steps, when the Lord is done eating, you wash his hands, you wash his mouth, and he's offered tambula, which is often betel nut. But sometimes now, because devotees are not even supposed to take the betel nut prasad, because of the effect it can have, in some temples, we had stopped using betel nut. In India, they still use it. But sometimes in the West, we'd stopped using betel nut. And instead, we offered a flower representative of the betel nut. And I remember when I was first being trained as a pujari, my sister and I, and we thought, is Krishna going to eat the flower? Because it's representative of this after meal refreshment. And sometimes there were some who thought, no, he's not going to eat the flower. He's just going to glance over it. However, then when I read this particular purport, thanks to Srila Visvanatha Chakravarti Thakur, all of my questions were completely dispelled. All the doubts cleared, right? I eat of this verb, ashnami. I eat implies that Krishna eats even a flower, which though acceptable as not edible, bewildered as he is by the ecstatic love he feels for his devotee, he'll eat it. This is our Krishna. Yearning, desiring, right? Wanting what's on his wish list is just this. Wanting to reciprocate the overwhelming love of his devotees so much that he becomes so ecstatic in that love that no matter what is offered, if it's offered with the expectation that he'll enjoy it, he does to his full satisfaction. This gives a great hope for us. What if we don't have all the gold and the riches and the sweet rice with the silver foil, with like the real actual silver foil to sprinkle on top? What if we don't have it? Krishna says, okay, no problem. And when he says, I'll accept fruit, flower, water, he doesn't just, it's not figurative. He is literal. In his ecstasy of love for his devotees, he's completely literal. We take these as promises. Not just something he said once, but it's a promise for all of us right now. As is evidenced by the fact that not only does he say it in Bhagavad Gita, but he speaks this to Sudama to allay his anxiety. So also side note, if any of us were wondering if anxiety is normal in devotional service, yes. Doesn't go away. The commentary is not even done. Someone might question, Krishna, will you refuse an offering made to you by persons who are devotees of the demigods? Krishna answers, yes, I will refuse to eat it. I only eat from the hand of my devotee who has a pure heart and whose mind is fixed in devotion. I accept his offering and no one else's. So, we've heard there's a saying, right? You have somebody who loves you eating out of the palm of your hand. But here Krishna says, no, really. For my devotees who love me, out of the palm of their hand, willing to do anything and everything. Next, even after being addressed in this way, Shukadeva Goswami continued, O king, the Brahmin felt too embarrassed to offer his palmfuls of flat rice to the husband of the goddess of fortune. He simply kept his head bowed in shame. Sudama refused to give his 4 handfuls of chipped rice to Krishna due to embarrassment. Now, see, I love details. Where else was I going to find out that it was exactly 4 handfuls? The phrase Pataye Shriya, husband of the goddess of fortune, indicates that Sudama was thinking, how can the Lord of Sri Devi eat this hard, tasteless, flat rice? By bowing his head, Sudama revealed his meditation. "O Lord, do not mock me. Though you have requested me many times, I have decided that I will not give it to you." On the other side, Krishna was thinking, "But you are my devotee, so you should do as you decided to do when you left home and give it to me." Being the direct witness in the hearts of all living beings, Lord Krishna fully understood why Sudama had come to see him. Thus he thought, "In the past, my friend has never worshipped me out of a desire for material opulence, but now he comes to me to satisfy his chaste and devoted wife. I will give him riches that even the immortal demigods cannot obtain." Commentary. Shri Krishna, the direct witness in the hearts of all living beings, or the seer of all souls, overwhelmed with love, momentarily wondered, "Although I know everything, how has my devotee become so poor?" Which I thought was really sweet. Krishna has a moment like, how did I let this happen? So we normally hear of Krishna, and we think of Krishna as like encouraging his devotees' poorness, right? You hear Krishna, and when he loves you, he takes everything away, wealth first. So we think, well, that's first thing to go, might as well just be poor. But this is actually not what Krishna desires. So Krishna is looking at Sudama thinking, how did I allow it to get this out of control? My goodness. I take care of them personally. How? This is the glory of the commentary of Srila Visvanatha Chakravarti Thakur. Then, quickly understanding the situation, Krishna spoke to himself the words related in this verse. The result of performing bhakti without material desires is spiritual enjoyment. This point is explained in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 2, Text 9. All occupational engagements are certainly meant for ultimate liberation. They should never be performed for material gain. Furthermore, according to sages, one who is engaged in the ultimate occupational service should never use material gain to cultivate sense gratification. In this regard, there are two types of renounced devotees. One kind is inimical to sense gratification, completely against it, and the other is indifferent to it. According to the different natures of these bhaktas, there are two kinds of results. The devotee who is extremely averse to worldly enjoyments will not get such enjoyments from Krishna. Jad Bharat is an example of this type of a renounced devotee. On the other hand, Krishna may give limitless wealth and power to a devotee who is neither repelled nor attracted by material things, such as Prahlad Maharaj. Up to this point in his life, Sudama Brahman was totally averse to sense gratification, but now, out of compassion for his faithful wife, and also because he hankered to see his dear friend Krishna, he went to beg from the Lord. Then again, Krishna thought to himself, even the desire of Sudama's wife was motivated by loyalty to her husband. Thus, she is also without personal desire after all. Therefore, I will give them riches that even the demigods cannot obtain. This is what we mean by revealing the mind of the Lord. One little verse, and so many lines and paragraphs of thoughts of Sri Krishna, jumping into the mind and the heart and the thought process and the psychology of the Supreme Being. How wonderful is this Acharya? Okay, just a little bit more, and then I promise I'll get to I'll wrap it up. Thinking like this, the Lord snatched from the Brahmin's garment the grains of flat rice tied up in an old piece of cloth and exclaimed, "What is this? My friend, have you brought this for me? It gives me extreme pleasure. Indeed, these few grains of flat rice will satisfy not only me, but also the entire universe." After saying this, the Supreme Lord ate one palmful and was about to eat a second when the devoted goddess Rukmini took hold of his hand. Commentary by our illustrious Vaishnava Shiromani, Srila Visvanatha Chakravarti Thakur. By grabbing Krishna's hand, Rukmini implied, if you eat all of this wonderful treat your friend brought you from his house, what will remain for my friends, co-wives, sisters-in-law, servants, and myself. There will be not enough left to distribute even 1 grain of rice to each of us. Even if I distribute 1 particle of rice to each person, it will not be sufficient. This was Rukmini's indication for Sudama. To her personal maidservants, Rukmini said by her gesture, "This hard flat rice will upset my lord's tender stomach." Queen Rukmini said, "This is more than enough, O soul of the universe, to secure him an abundance of all kinds of wealth in this world and the next. After all, one's prosperity depends simply on your satisfaction." Commentary. Through her eyes, Rukmini conveyed her intentions to Krishna. "You have eaten enough, so be satisfied with that and do not eat any more, O soul of the universe. If you are satisfied, the whole universe will be satisfied." Krishna then spoke through his eyes. "In order to give my dear friend great wealth, I must eat more than 1 handful." Rukmini replied, "Your satisfaction alone is the cause of one's increasing his wealth in this life and the next. Therefore, you need not chew much of this hard, tasteless rice." Rukmini's statement was communicated internally. It was not spoken externally because they did not want Sudama to hear. So they had an entire conversation just through their eyes, which is how you know they've been married a long time. When you can just kind of like look at the person. Like when your mom looks at you and you know that you're either in trouble or doing a good job, but mostly in trouble. And it kind of makes you not want to go back home. Like wherever you are at the outing and she gives you the look and you're like, well, maybe we just don't go home. Maybe we go to the forest now. Just renounce everything. But this is the conversation that can be had. And this conversation between Krishna and Rukmini just through glancing at each other. And then, mind you, this was 1 text. They said 2 lines, and Srila Visvanatha Chakravarti Thakur pulled out entire drama. So incredibly wonderful. One thing I do want to read because I'm such a Govinda Bhakta. He's written many wonderful songs. And one thing that he has written is a Govinda Devashtakam. 8 verses in prayer and praise of Sri Govindaji. This Govinda Devashtakam is as follows. May Lord Govinda Dev, who charms the eyes of all living beings with the graceful movement of the peacock feather in his golden crown, shining with pearls and gems, be my shelter. May Lord Govinda Dev, who charms the hearts of the devotees with his cheeks, which are kissed by the splendor of his smile and the dancing of his earrings, be my shelter. May Lord Govinda Dev, who by glimpsing at his beloved to attain her nectarian sidelong glance provokes the love of all the demigoddesses, be my shelter. May Lord Govinda Dev, who entices the pious cowherd girls with the charming movements of his eyebrows, which are enhanced by the beauty of his moving locks of hair, lustrous earrings, and his cheek placed upon his left shoulder, be my shelter. He enters into the hearts of the cowherd damsels and draws them to him, though they stand afar, blocking their ears from the sound of his flute and their noses from the wonderful scent of his body. May Lord Govinda Dev be my shelter. He fills the devotees on earth with astonishment by the weight of his youthful beauty and the unlimited ocean of his love. May Lord Govinda Dev be my shelter. Those learned in the scriptures worship him with mantras as he sits in the lotus-like yogapit, in a gem-studded palace, beneath a grove of wish-fulfilling trees. May Lord Govinda Dev be my shelter. He is as handsome as the god of love, Ananga, and is dressed and decorated as if for a royal coronation. He enthralls all the residents of the 3 worlds with his beautiful form. May Lord Govinda Dev be my shelter. One who reads aloud this Govinda Devashtakam and meditates upon the Lord's lotus feet is thrown into a river of mercy by the Lord himself. May Lord Govindadev be my shelter. And as a final, wrap it up, we owe pretty much all of our mornings to Srila Visvanatha Chakravarti Thakur. How is this? We have the wonderful Guru Vastakam prayer, which, unless you go looking through what the actual names of songs are, Guru Vastakam, you don't even, you hear Guru Vastakam, what is it? It is Samsaradava Nalalida Loka Tranaya Karuna Gana Ganato Praptasya Kalyana Gunarnavasya Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda. The spiritual master is receiving benediction from the ocean of mercy. Just as a cloud pours water on a forest fire to extinguish it, so the spiritual master delivers the materially afflicted world by extinguishing the blazing fire of material existence. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master, who is an ocean of auspicious qualities. Mahaprabhu Kirtana Nritya Gita Vaditramadyan Manasorasena Romanchakam Pasrutaranga Bajo Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda. Chanting the holy name, dancing in ecstasy, singing and playing musical instruments, the spiritual master is always gladdened by the Sankirtan movement of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Because he is relishing the mellows of pure devotion within his mind, sometimes his hair stands on end, he feels quivering in his body, and tears flow from his eyes like waves. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master. Shri Vigrahara Dhananityanana Shingaratan Mandira Marjanado Yuktasya Bhaktam Chaniyunjatopi Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda. The spiritual master is always engaged in the temple worship of Sri Sri Radha and Krishna. He also engages his disciples in such worship. They dress the deities in beautiful clothes and ornaments, clean their temple, and perform other similar worship of the Lord. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master. Chaturvida Shri Bhagavat Prasada Swadana Triptan Hari Bhakta Sangan Kritvaiva Triptim Bhajata Sadaiva Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda. The spiritual master is always offering Krishna 4 kinds of delicious food, analyzed as that which is licked, chewed, drunk, and sucked. When the spiritual master sees the devotees are satisfied by eating Bhagavat Prasad, this is what Rukmini was concerned with. He is satisfied. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master. Shri Radhika Madhavayorapara Madhurya Lila Gunarupanamna Pratikshana Swadana Lolupasya Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda. The spiritual master is always eager to hear and chant about the unlimited conjugal pastimes of Radhika and Madhava and their qualities, names, and forms. The spiritual master aspires to relish these at every moment. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master. Nikunjayuno Ratikali Sidya Ya Yalibir Yuktira Pekshaniya Tatrati daksha dativala bhasya Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda. The spiritual master is very dear because he is expert in assisting the gopis, who at different times make different tasteful arrangements for the perfection of Radha and Krishna's conjugal loving affairs within the groves of Vrindavan. I offer my most humble obeisances unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master. Sakshadaritve samasta sastra uktastata bhavyata eva sadbi kintu praborya priya eva tasya vande guru shri charanaravinda. The spiritual master is to be honored as much as the Supreme Lord himself, because he is the most confidential servitor of the Lord. This is acknowledged in all revealed scriptures and followed by all authorities. Therefore, I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master who is a bona fide representative of Sri Hari. Yasya prasadat bhagavat prasada Yasya prasada nagati kutopi Dhyayan stuvam stasya yasastri sandhya Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda. By the mercy of the spiritual master, one receives the benediction of Krishna. Without the grace of the spiritual master, one cannot make any advancement. Therefore, I should always remember and praise my spiritual master. At least 3 times a day, I should offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master. But why do we sing this at Mangalarti? Well, there is 1/9 verse. Srimad Guru Rashtakametad Uchair Brahme Muhurte Patati Prayatnat Yastena Vrindavananata Shakshat Seve Valabhya Janusonta Eva. One who with great care and attention loudly recites this beautiful prayer to the spiritual master during the Brahma Muhurta obtains direct service to Krishna, the Lord of Vrindavan, at the time of his death. So if you were ever wondering, have I done enough? Is it enough? Am I securing my place? Like, what happens after I die? Is it going to be enough? Which is a very real and honest worry. Is my devotional service going to be enough, flawed as it is, lacking as it is, incomplete and unsteady as it is? Will it be enough? Thanks to our Vaishnava Shiromani, thanks to Srila Visvanatha Chakravarti Thakur, he is given a promise. If at any time you have been up at Mangalarti, singing loudly this Guru Vastakam, anyone who loudly, carefully, with attention, sings this prayer to the spiritual master during Brahma Muhurta obtains direct service to Krishna, the Lord of Vrindavan. So, as encouragement, our Vaisnava Acarya says your place is already secured. We have so many Vaishnav ancestors, friends, family to vouch for us. So let's dive in with joy and attention into all of these pastimes. Now we don't have to do it as a means of, okay, I have to study this so that I secure my place. Don't worry about the grades. We don't have to worry about the results now. Now we can dive in just for the sheer love of it. And I feel like the example of Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is when we dive in for the love of it, that's when all the fun happens. First time he read it, what was the essence? There was hesitation. Go back, read it again. When he came back that next time, not because this completes my study, but for the love of it, that's where all the fun is. That's where the visions are. That's where the oceans and oceans of treasure are. But like treasure at the bottom of the ocean, Gaur Govinda Maharaj says, we have to dive deep to get all of these jewels and gems. So let's take every opportunity to dive deep with each other on our own and have realizations. Let's see these divine dramas, not just written on a page, but coming to life within our minds and our hearts. We have the encouragement and the promise of all of our Vaishnava Acharyas with us. Thank you so much for being with me through this extra long one, but we could speak about Chakravarti Thakur for years and still never be done. But thank you for enlivening my Ekadasi and helping me gain all the blessings, the ones that, like, for anyone who reads this loudly, thanks for letting me get that one. But I encourage all of you. These things are, it's on the internet. The web is a beautiful place now. Go find it. Find all the treasure. Collect it. It's like you get like rare Pokemons. Like go collect all the amazing treasures. Catch every pastime. And let our acharyas awaken this love and all of these adventures in our hearts.
Thank you, Acyuta Gopi.
Is there, so you can find it.
Thank you, Acyuta Gopi. So many wonderful transcendental Pokemons in your class today. Thank you very much. Devotees, we apologize for going over time. If you have questions, this is your chance. Hare Krishna.
Where's my friends? I know you have them.
They're there. Okay.
Haribol Acyuta Gopi, I just want to say, you were saying about bring these things to life. You bring these things to life for us all the time. So grateful for your knowledge and your passion when you speak. It's just it's just wonderful. We see it all. So you're embedding them in our hearts. So thank you so much for spending your Ekadashis with us. Thank you so much.
It's actually the best treat for me. Ekadashi, it feels like there's a celebration every Ekadashi. I'm like, wait, we get to wake up and we get to talk about all of our Vaishnava Acharyas. It's so much fun. It's like, it's the best buffet.
I'm just curious, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's guru, because I'm interested with which was it the guru who gave him sannyas that you were mentioning of? Because I'm wondering. Yes, was it that one? Because I'm wondering, with who did he write that beautiful prayer of devotion to, Samsara Tava?
Yeah, I'm thinking he had to have been thinking of Radharaman Chakravarti. I mean, he accepted him as his guru, but he also, I mean, he went and he would serve other Vaishnavas. He lived with other, so, you know, I mean, he was around with so many Vaishnavas that I can only imagine that when you accept all of them as your spiritual master, right? You can think of a Vaishnav for every verse, which kind of was happening to me as I was singing it just now. I thought of my own Guru Maharaj, but then I thought of so many that I love. There's Srila Prabhupada. Of course, how do we not think about Srila Prabhupada when we sing a song like this? But I also thought of Indradumna Maharaj, which without whom I might not have had half of this lecture. And then I'm thinking about, there's so many. There's Sachinandan Maharaj. There's Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj. Every stanza and every time we sing it, we can think of another glorious Vaishnava who's impacted our lives. There are so many spiritual masters who embody each and every one of these. When we think of those who are engaged in dressing Radhika Madhava and engaging in the temple, how do we not think of our celestial Janani Vasam Pangadrangri Prabhu? How do we not? And embed those prayers and that appreciation into each verse. So yeah, I'm sure he must have been thinking of his direct spiritual master, but I can only imagine that there were countless others.
Thank you so much for that wonderful answer.
Yeah, when Srila Prabhupada was still a young man, family man, he composed a poem glorifying his own guru, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and he wrote a speech which says, there does not arise any question of discriminating my guru from that of yours or anyone else, Srila Prabhupada says. There is only one guru who appears in an infinity of forms to teach you, me, and all others. Just a quick snippet.
I love it.
No.
Wonderful. So yeah, it's confirmation from Srila Prabhupada that
Yeah.
at the heart of it, there's no discriminating, because they all have the ability to awaken that love of Krishna within our hearts. I mean, in all of our other, Krishna is yours, and you have the power to give him to me. Oh, venerable Vaishnava, I'm just a dog running behind you, crying Krishna, Krishna, just trying to follow somehow, catch a drop.
Catch a Pokemon. Okay. So, do we have any other contributions? If not, we're going to wrap it up. Thank you, Acyuta Gopi, very much. As always, enlightening our Ekadasis.
Yeah, the next one I've already decided, so it's going to be really exciting. You probably don't want to miss that one.
Wonderful. Can't wait. Can't wait. Okay. Everyone have a wonderful day. Thanks for tuning in. See you all here tomorrow. Acyuta Gopi, thank you very much. See you next Ekadasi. Can't wait. Haribol.